The Supreme Court only hears roughly 80 or so cases a year. I know the President has considered a handful of these jurists and who's revealed actually a list of potential appointees to the court when he ran for president. And I think that probably was one reason why he was elected, because when people saw the quality and the experience and the qualifications of the individuals that he said he would consider for the Supreme Court, I think it gave them greater confidence that he would choose wisely, given the opportunity as president to appoint somebody to the court. These individuals, of course, who are in the pool of prospective nominees have come from different academic and professional backgrounds. But I have no doubt the selection will be a good one, primarily because of the one appointment that the President has already made to the Supreme Court, and that is, of course, Justice Neil Gorsuch. Justice Gorsuch did not disappoint those of us who supported his nomination during his first year on the court. He's demonstrated not only the power of his pen, but the clarity of his thought and the force of his legal reasoning. And I'm sure that his predecessor, Justice Scalia, would be proud of the fact that Justice Gorsuch succeeded him on the court and left such a record of accomplishment in such a short time. President Trump and Justice Gorsuch taught us all a valuable lesson last year. At the end of the day, the decisions of the Supreme Court should not be much affected by the personalities or the life stories of the justices themselves. That's because the interpretation of the law should always be separate and apart from the people that apply it. And the justices and their work must be insulated from the day-to-day politics that happen inside this Capitol building and in state houses around the country. The court is not a partisan or political institution after all. That's the way our founders, the people who created this great country and our founding documents wanted it to be. Wisely, they figured there needed to be somebody who would make a final decision in the event of a controversy or a lawsuit, but the court itself should not put a finger on the scale or be a player in the partisan battles that occur here in Washington, D.C. Indeed, the court should be and is a separate and equal branch of government and must stand on its own, apart from the political biases and persuasions that pervade the District of Columbia. So I, along with many other people, am excited to hear about the President's choice. But before we begin this confirmation process, let me acknowledge the work and the legacy of departing Justice Kennedy. I want to thank Justice Kennedy for his 40-plus years serving this country on the federal bench. He's presided over and authored the majority opinion in many high-stakes cases of national importance. He may be somewhat hard to pigeonhole at times, but I think it's safe to say that he's remained committed to upholding the integrity of the judiciary throughout the course of his career. As a former state Supreme Court justice myself, I could attest that the work of a judge is painstaking, time-consuming, but obviously extraordinarily important. So we're grateful to Justice Kennedy for his willingness and his ability and his determination to carry out his important work as a federal judge. After being appointed by President Reagan and serving on the Supreme Court for the last 3 decades, he's furthered the pursuit of American justice one case at a time through calm times and turbulent times as well. He was an important member of the court that recognized the individual right to keep and bear arms of the Second Amendment, and he recently upheld the President's ability to protect national security and limit immigration from countries that have no ability to vet and to identify potential sources of terrorism in their own country. As Justice Kennedy concludes his tenure on the court at the end of the month, we wish him and his wife Mary and their children many more happy years together. Meanwhile, after the President's announcement this evening, the Senate will fulfill our constitutional role by providing advice and consent on whomever President Trump nominates. We plan to consider the nominee and his or her record thoroughly. That's our responsibility. As the senior Democratic senator from Connecticut said recently, the Senate should do nothing to artificially delay consideration of the next justice. I agree. and it's consistent with the standards set by former President Obama and Vice President Biden. In 2010, which was a midterm election just like this year, Senate Democrats confirmed President Obama's nominee to the Supreme Court, Elena Kagan. After President Trump makes his selection, senators will have the opportunity to meet with the nominee, examine his or her qualifications, and then debate them, and then vote. Vote we will. This fall, we will vote to confirm Justice Kennedy's successor. I know Chairman Grassley will manage a fair confirmation process in the Judiciary Committee. He always has. And it's crucial that as this process begins to unfold, the President's nominee not be subjected to personal attacks from an increasingly agitated and vitriolic Democratic Party. You know, my frustration is we used to debate the qualifications of an individual nominee, but with the Gorsuch nomination, we saw that anybody that President Trump would nominate would be uniformly opposed by our friends across the aisle. Based on what we've seen so far, we know that the confirmation process will certainly be contentious, and we hope that people will remind themselves of the benefits of civility and decorum. We've seen some of our friends across the aisle talk about the battle lines being drawn and other hyperbolic language. They've indicated their unwavering opposition to President Trump's nominee, no matter who that is, and before they even know who it is. That's extremely disappointing. Our colleagues' pledge to stop the nominee at all costs is not encouraging, to say the least. But I assure you, we will not back down from the fight, and we will see President Trump's nominee confirmed on a timely basis, consistent with previous nominees. The stakes are too important, and the character of the eventual nominee we expect will be too high to allow this sorts of things to happen without pushing back. The American people deserve better. During the first 18 months of this administration, President Trump has nominated, and we've confirmed, 42 members of the federal judiciary, including Justice Gorsuch. So we look forward to another outstanding selection, and we will move efficiently and thoroughly throughout the confirmation process. And like I said, we will vote to confirm the President's nominee this fall. President, I yield the floor, and I'd note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.